So I got a bunch of friends who are saving up cash so they can buy something 3 years from now, 5 years from now, maybe a car, maybe a nice house. And I keep telling them that it doesn't make sense to save cash, US dollars. It doesn't make sense to buy anything other than Bitcoin, even if you want to buy something 3 to 5 years from now. And give me 10 minutes. I really want to explain to you and give you 3 main reasons why that is. Now, my name is Fefe and I've been in a space since 2016. I'm educating people every single day on my daily live shows. I give you trades, I give you investment ideas and opportunities, token analysis. I also write a bunch of threads. So if that's something that you might be interested in, there is a link in the description to my X account. Go and check that out. And of course, subscribe to the channel because I bring you a bunch of educational stuff like this. So bear with me here. Let's jump into the content because I think this might be the moment where I change your mind about Bitcoin. So the first reason why Bitcoin is better than anything else is because it's limited supply. So limited supply means that there is a smaller amount of something available than people want or need. Now, when Ferrari has been asked how many cars would they make, they said they would make always one less than what people need. And why is that? Because there is supply and demand. And since there is limited supply of something, and if there is a demand, there is always going to be higher prices. Now, the question is, why would there be demand and why there is limited supply? Well, limited supply is there with Bitcoin because how it is coded. You have to imagine Bitcoin as a computer program that has been coded at some point, and that code cannot really be changed. There are technicalities I don't want to deep dive into it. It's not that video now, but what you have to know that this code, this computer program cannot really be changed. So there are going to be 21 million Bitcoins created total forever. There is not gonna be more. It cannot happen that there are more Bitcoins created. And the way it works, very, very simply, you might have heard about Bitcoin mining. And Bitcoin mining is basically nothing else than verifying transactions on the Bitcoin network. And by people verifying transactions on the Bitcoin network, they get rewarded in Bitcoins. And this is how Bitcoins are issued and added into circulation. And because there is a process every 10 minutes, there is a verification, there is a block added to the blockchain, there is Bitcoin added to the circulation every 10 minutes. And it is about 3 Bitcoins currently every 10 minutes. Now, fun fact, in 2009, when Bitcoin launched, it was 50 Bitcoins. But because Bitcoins halve, the issuance of Bitcoin halves every 4 years, it becomes deflationary, but we're gonna talk about that later. What you have to understand now is that as supply increases, because the circulating supply increases, so there's 21 million kept, but how many is available for purchase out in the world increases, as I said, every 10 minutes, but the amount of Bitcoin left to be mined is actually decreasing. What is interesting that even though it's 21 million Bitcoins programmed into the system, the reality is that a lot of that Bitcoin is already lost. So we're looking at about 11 to 18% of the total supply that is probably lost. So instead of 21 million, we were looking at between 16 to 18 million Bitcoins. And there is one more catch, which is Satoshi Nakamoto, who holds about 1 million Bitcoin that is also taken out of the circulation by us knowing that he has that many Bitcoin. And that leaves us with about 14 million Bitcoins total. Now, if you imagine that everybody buys 1 Bitcoin, that's 14 million people, and there are like 8 billion people on the planet. So there you see the demand and the supply having the indifference, which will at some point give high valuation for Bitcoin. Now, there are a bunch of companies that realize that and they're loading up on Bitcoin, but it's not only companies, but also countries. More recently, the United States actually added or created the Bitcoin National Reserve. They hold about 200,000 Bitcoins. And if you just add that up, that's also 1% of the total supply. And then there is China holding also about 1% of the supply. And then there's the UK holding about 0.3% of the supply. So you see that the amount of Bitcoin available for purchase is actually becoming less and less and less. And yes, there is 21 million theoretically that can be issued into circulation. There's actually not that many. And again, that gives very high value to it. Why is it important? One last example. If you're on a deserted island and you've got 10 bottles of water and you've got 100 people for that bottles of water, the water becomes very, very, very expensive. But if someone walks out and they start, just an adventure into the island and they discover a spring, the water bottles will become completely obsolete. They are not going to be expensive because now there is unlimited water. There's no limited supply. So limited supply to anything is actually very, very, very important. Now the next step is, or the next main reason is the deflationary aspect of Bitcoin. Now, if you look at fiat currencies, right? If fiat currencies, meaning US dollars, euros, or any currency that you might be using, are inflationary, that means that because the fiat money, the definition of fiat money is that the government issued currency that is not backed by physical commodity, such as gold, silver, but rather by the government that issued it. Meaning, money is just created out of thin air. They simply print it. And if they print more and more and more of the supply, what really happens is that they increase the supply and therefore devalue that currency. That currency that you hold, that US dollar, will inflate, the prices will inflate, and that dollar will buy you less things as it bought yesterday or a year ago. So what is again, going back to the limited supply, Bitcoin, and these things, sorry, so why is it a problem? Because it causes massive inflation, right? So if you see here, Venezuela, for example, 180%, Sudan, 100% inflation, Zimbabwe, 92%. But even if you look at like Argentina, 35%, Turkey, 35%. So you can see some of these major countries having massive inflation because there is no limited supply to fiat currencies. And that basically, as you see on the chart, the purchasing power is basically diminishing. So the next step could be, okay, well, I'm just gonna buy gold. Well, it's simple. I'm not gonna hold it in fiat. You might be thinking gold could be the better investment. Why don't I just buy gold if I wanna buy anything? Now, the problem with gold, even though a lot of countries actually accumulate a bunch of gold, is that gold is presumably limited in supply. We don't actually know. In fact, in China, they just discovered 1.7% of the gold supply on the ground, which adds 1.7% to the supply that we thought was limited. So the problem with gold, as you see here, this asteroid as well is just coming here, and this basically, you know, there is this asteroid that holds 700 quintillion dollar worth of gold. Now, we don't know if they're going to be mined or not or whatever, but my point is that there is no proof that the gold supply is not going to double tomorrow when they discover a massive gold reserve somewhere. In reality, Bitcoin, on the other hand, is the computer program that Bitcoin is. It's coded into it that it is limited. There is not going to be, whoever says that, yeah, but they can just issue more. It's not like dollars. Because of the computer system that has been created, they cannot just print more Bitcoins. They cannot just add Bitcoin to the supply. It is always going to be 21 million. And how is it deflationary? Do you remember I told you that there is a certain amount of Bitcoins being issued every time there is there are transactions being validated and blocks being added to the blockchain every 10 minutes? Well, those Bitcoins that are being issued are halved. The amount that they issue is halved every 4 years. And that means that now, in the beginning, they got 50 Bitcoins for adding blocks to the blockchain. And then 4 years later, in 2012, there was a Bitcoin halving event, which made it only 25 Bitcoins for adding blocks to the blockchain. 2016, another halving event took that reward down to 12.5. And currently, at 2024, we had a halving event that basically took down the reward to 3.125 Bitcoin per block added to the blockchain. The thing is, in 4 years' time, in 2028, this is going to go down to 1.55 something. And then 4 years later, it's going to go down to 0.75. So there's always going to be a deflationary aspect to it. As you see here, Bitcoin is hardly deflationary. And the last Bitcoin, it's all the way until 2140, when the last Bitcoin is the last fraction of a Bitcoin is going to be mined. That is going to be the date when Bitcoin will lose its deflationary aspect. But that's a long time. I think none of us, unfortunately, is going to live that long. But we'll see. AI comes and biotech comes, so we yet to see it. But in general, you can see how the halving events changes. For example, in 2100, there will be a halving event, and that halving event will take down the rewards to 0.000000596. So you see, it becomes deflationary because of the issuance. It's not only the deflationary aspect, it's not only the issuance, but also the difficulty to create more Bitcoins changes every single time as well. So it will be much more difficult. So everybody who says, yeah, but new computer systems will come and they will mine it faster, there is a mechanism built into the program that doesn't allow that to happen. There is a difficulty adjustment based on the amount of computers coming online and verifying transactions. Therefore, as we progress in Bitcoin's life and there is less and less Bitcoin being issued into circulation, it will be more and more difficult to actually do that. And before I tell you what the third important reason is, I just want to tell you that we do have a school that just launched now. It's a completely free school that you can sign up. There's no catch. You can also buy it for $2,000, but we've figured out a mechanism where it becomes free for you. You just have to sign up to an exchange, but it's all in the course. There is a link in the description, and we also pin this in the comment section, so you can just scroll down a little bit. It will be in the pinned comment section. Go and check this out. This will get you from zero to hero when it comes to crypto. This is, in my opinion, the highest quality course I've ever seen about getting started in crypto. We cover everything from what is the history of money, how inflation happens, why Bitcoin is important and was created, how it solves the problem of what we have with our current financial system. But we also give you all the practicalities. For example, how to use a wallet, how to use an exchange, how to buy your Bitcoin, how to sign up, where to sign up, how not to get scammed, how not to get hacked. All that stuff is in the course. I do recommend you go and check that out. Our first cohort starting in 11 days. I know we have limited spots, so I would do recommend you go and sign up today and check it out. There's a link in the description to the free course. Now that said, what is the third one? And the third one is decentralized. Remember I told you that there is the difficulty as more and more miners come online? It's very simple. You see, when you look at cash can be issued, as I said. Banks can just go and they say, yeah, you know what? We're just going to issue more cash. We're just going to inject money into the economy. We're just going to print more. The thing is, you can't really do that with Bitcoin. It's not only that they can print it, but they can also go bankrupt. So it's not only that they can inflate the currency and basically devalue the money in your own pocket that you work for, but they can just go, well, you know what? I know that you held your money with us, but unfortunately we went bankrupt. As you've seen in 2023, there were 5-6 bank failures, bankruptcies, and a lot of people lost a lot of money because they trusted the bank with their own money. Now, the thing is that when it comes to for example, real estate as well, you can say, yeah, but I can buy real estate. If I buy a house that will appreciate in value and I can't really lose it because, you know, it's not a bank, the bank is not going to go bankrupt. Well, I've got some friends from Ukraine and this is how Ukraine looks like. So the thing with real estate is they thought as well real estate was one of the best investments until it wasn't, because unfortunate things happen. And I'm not saying hopefully this will not happen ever again, but it's not, real estate is not the only way to go about it, and it's not as safe as people might think it is. And then you can again go back, gold. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna buy gold bars and stack it in my basement. Couple of problems. One is carrying gold is actually very difficult. I'm not even gonna read this up. You can read the story. It's quite wild actually. But carrying gold is not as easy as it may seem. Carrying and storing, and also it's still controlled by the government. So the government, you cannot just go and carry your gold. And if there was precedent where the government just said, you can't have physical gold, you have to hand in your physical gold because that's just what we figured out. The problem is, again, if you hold your cash in gold, you can't just carry that anywhere because one, it's easy to find, two, it's difficult to carry, much more. I think you understand the point here. And on the other hand, Bitcoin is completely decentralized and cannot be controlled or censored by any central entity. And I mean it. So there are, you remember I told you that there are computers that add blocks to the blockchain and they verify transactions? Well, there are about 22,000 computers online on the Bitcoin blockchain. And what that means is that if you were to actually stop the Bitcoin network and censor the Bitcoin network's usage, let's say, you know, the government would say, hey, you can't really use Bitcoin anymore. they would not only have to stop 22,000 computers worldwide at the same time, but they would also need to limit any new computer to get online. And this is the argument for, yeah, but they can just unplug the Bitcoin network. Well, in fact, they can't because of the decentralized nature. They can freeze your bank account. You can take out cash from your account. They can devalue your currency based on, whenever they want by just simply printing money. Bankruptcies can happen when it comes to banks. You can't really hold gold because 1, they can confiscate it at any time. 2, difficult to carry. 3, difficult to store. 4, difficult to actually exchange value with it because you can hold an ounce bar of gold, but you can't really buy chocolate with it in a shop. And then the only solution is when it comes to transferring wealth on a decentralized manner and actually truly being your own bank is Bitcoin. You can literally just get one of these ledger devices, a cold wallet. You can put your entire net worth on this in Bitcoin and put it in your pocket and have this stored there forever. So again, if you think about all this, the most important thing is that 1, the limited supply of Bitcoin makes it very attractive on a long-term investment side. If you look back on the Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin went from $2,000 in 2017 all the way to $110,000 now in 2025. If you look at that, that's not a long time. So in 8 years, Bitcoin has basically outperformed everything that you can look at, whether it's real estate, whether it's gold. It's been absolutely mind-blowing. 2, it's very important that Bitcoin has what was my second one here? Bitcoin is deflationary. So you don't have to worry about, more Bitcoins being created and this digital money is just going to be printed out of thin air and just being taken away. And that leads me into decentralization, where you can just really withdraw, you can just really stop the Bitcoin network and simply kill the network or just take the Bitcoins away from that network because of its decentralized nature. Guys, I hope this video gave you any value. Again, what I can really say, if that it opened your eye and you want to learn more about Bitcoin, go and check out the link in the description to our new school. It's completely free. There's a link in the description and there's also a pinned comment. We have our first cohort in 11 days. It's gonna be mind-blowing. I promise you, I am going to be there holding your hand, guiding you through everything, how to use a wallet, how to, just use an exchange, sign up to an exchange, what is Bitcoin, what is Ethereum, what are altcoins, all that stuff we're gonna talk about. But I also wanted to tell you one more thing, and that is that we have a newsletter here at Banter, which gives you the TLDR of the day. So there are 2 links. We have a charting newsletter and we have a news-based newsletter with all the relevant news and everything that you need to understand. There's a link in the description to both of them. I do recommend you check out the links, the pinned comments. And guys, if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to come back for another one, subscribe. Make sure to follow me on X. I give you a bunch of trades, a bunch of ideas, a bunch of news every single day on here, on Crypto Live, on the 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Club. There are all the socials in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Truly appreciate you. I will see you at school and in the next one. Take care.